disruptors on a bad day might just say, I'm not coming at all. And so you don't see that disruptive influence as often, perhaps. They have much better counter-coercion capabilities. They're much better at it when they get older. But we see that predominantly in younger kids. When kids get older, they choose escape and avoid. Yeah.
We do have a small percentage of students that will use the counter-coerce. I mean, it's almost like they're reverting back to the behavior, childhood behavior. And they don't escape. They use that. They misbehave. Mainly our 9th and 10th grade students. They're just coming to it.
Right. And so it's worked for them in the past.
So they're
going to try it. They're going to figure out pretty soon, though, escape and avoid is a lot cheaper to do. And so they'll head that direction eventually, unless their circumstances change from their perception. Okay, let's go to the next one. Seemingly identical circumstances produce different results. 2 kids side by side, same classroom, you said the same thing to both of them. One of them loves you and one of them wants to punch you. That's really frustrating as a teacher, isn't it? To think, I did this right for this one, why didn't it work for you? And it's because all of the things that they bring into that interaction alters the way they see that. Okay, so good job might be great for one kid and embarrassing for another. It's a good job in front of other people. Okay, it's just bad. So just understand that. So your intent may be great, but they see things differently. I want to talk a little bit about this thing called the matching law. I'm sure that you could spend about 3 hours talking about this. This is a behavioral principle. And what it says in general is that behaviors kind of exist in a marketplace. We tend to do what rewards us relative to what it costs us to do the behavior. So staying home and watching TV has a real low cost to it. It's not a real tough thing to do. Getting up early, getting dressed, dragging my butt down to school, it has a higher cost. So if I'm looking at a couple options, let's see, it's cheaper to stay at home, it's costly to go to school. Okay, let's look at the reward side of this. Staying at home, I don't have to be accountable for anything. That's pretty rewarding. Going to school, well, I have friends there, that could be fun. I got this teacher I kind of like. I'm just kind of weighing these things out. So as kids make these decisions, they don't actually go through this process, by the way. But internally, this is kind of what's going on with them. They're thinking about the costs and benefits of actions. And some of these, they just do it out of reaction because they've been doing this their whole life. They've been behaving their whole life. So they do this just kind of naturally. And so when we talk about altering behaviors, we ought to consider costs and benefits. What can we do to lower the cost to get them here? Because if I can lower the cost far enough, I can compete with sleeping in, right? Then I have to think, how can I raise the reward so that even that cost starts to look like a pretty good investment? Okay, what are the things that we can do here that make getting out of bed and getting showered and dressed worthwhile? Okay, so I just want you to think about that as a way to just functionally assess what's going on. Let's go to the next. I wanted to talk about positives and negatives. Positive and negatives, great thing. You guys have all heard of positive behavior support? Anyone want to give a shot at defining positive behavior support?
Doesn't it have something to do with adding something to the situation to increase the behavior?
Okay. Oh, you're going in a great direction there. I like that.
Say well, maybe not reward's the right word, but you reward the things you want to see being repeated again.
Yes. Okay. So this is about building behaviors as opposed to destroying old behaviors. So they're really trying to push this idea of building behaviors. One of the things that I've seen as a consequence of this kind of push of positive behavior support is teachers going overboard being positive and almost to the point where they're afraid to say a negative thing to a student. Like, oh, we're positive behavior support here. We don't say negative things. What? Okay, we just did a really interesting research study that I think points to this. It was originally done as a demonstration that Rich West used to do. And I said, well, Rich, we've just got to make this into a real study. So we did. It was called the track study. If you can imagine a piece of paper, and drawn on the piece of paper is a little racetrack. So 2 parallel lines about 1 inch apart. Okay? And and you have two people in the experiment. One of them is the driver. They have a pencil, and they're going to race the track with their pencil. But they're blindfolded, which makes it kind of hard. So they need a teacher. So they've got an instructor next to them. So they start, and we have a clock on them, and they're blindfolded, and the first time through, the instructor gets one instruction: no. That's all they get to say. So the poor person struggles, no, 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 okay? Or no, 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 no. Goes real fast, okay? Then they go a second time, and we give the instructor a new instruction. We give them yes. Yes. So we see a little bit different pattern. I'll tell you about the results here in a second. Then the third time through, they get to have both yes and no. Okay? So here's some things that we found. When you're given the word no as an instruction, it's very difficult to complete the course. There just isn't enough information there. So in a negative atmosphere like that, it's funny. You don't even want to venture too far away. You come back to where you know the track is, and you kind of just sit there, frozen. And we find that's true in an aversive environment, that we go back to rules that we know. We only act in ways that we're certain are going to be appropriate. We're afraid to explore. When the condition was yes only, they didn't navigate the track a whole lot better, but they were willing to go all over the paper searching for that track. Because in a positive environment, they're willing to explore like crazy. When we gave them both words, they completed the track very quickly. And the more yeses there were relative to nos, the faster they completed the track. So as the ratio of yeses to nos increased, they were faster. So what we learned from that is a positive atmosphere creates that willingness to explore, but the nos give the yeses saliency. So when we talk about positive behavior support, we're not just like these weird attaboy people running around the school, but it's okay to identify misbehavior. Please sit down and you're being disruptive, and it's causing us a problem here. I need you to sit down. You can go through complete corrective teaching cycles with them and identify misbehavior, as long as you then identify a new behavior that they can adopt that's going to get them that support. Yes?
Yeah, just basically like, rewarding the positive behavior, but putting boundaries on the behavior, which every kid needs to know what the boundaries are, or they keep reaching with bad behavior.
Absolutely. And the no gets them back on the track occasionally. You don't want to use too many of them, because then they lose their saliency after a while, their value. Yes?
But a reward doesn't have to be, like a reward can just be an acknowledgement of the good behavior.
Yep.
Like, I appreciate you saving your seat today.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like, here's a piece of candy.
Right.
Saving
Well,
your seat today.
good. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I don't know if we're going to quite get to that, but yes, we talked about different kinds of reward. One of them is what we call a contrived reward, which is some kind of trinket that you give them, okay? There's natural rewards that just by the consequences of doing it, we find it rewarding, okay? And a lot of times to get a person to the point where they're naturally rewarded for something, we prop it up with trinkets. But I would suggest to you that by far the two most valuable rewards you have in this school is their success, okay? So when they can do something, they're going to want to keep doing it. So their success is a huge reward, and your recognition, okay? The other thing that I would suggest to you is that we know that when you recognize a child or praise them, that for the praise to have instructional value, it has to have 4 attributes to it. I'm back to 4 again. It's 4 different things. It has to be specific. So thank you for sitting in your chair and being quiet. It has to be timely. It's nice to put the praise right on top of the behavior. Don't wait an hour, okay? It needs to be sincere, okay? You got to mean it. And it's got to be contingent. They actually had to have done it. And you can't believe how many times we deliver praise when the kid actually didn't even complete the task. My favorite was Dr. West was trying to teach his grandchild to walk. This child was a bit delayed in walking because mom carried this child around everywhere. And she goes, I can't believe it. This child won't walk. And he told her, why would he? There's no reason to. You carry him everywhere. So they decide they're going to go teach this child to walk. And at one critical moment, the child was running toward Grandma and trips and falls. And Grandma goes, good job, and gives him the treat. And Dr. West goes, we're going to have to start all over again because you just rewarded falling on your face. So Sometimes we're not quite aware of the things that we reward when we do these things. Okay, the next one is all elements are much easier to destroy than build. This is the killer. Trust, things like that, they take a long time to build and a moment to get rid of them. Clear expectations. They take a while for we make sure that everybody knows what's going on, and then someone alters the way the rules are used, and all of a sudden kids are confused. So keep that in mind. You know, you're walking a knife's edge a lot of times around here trying to build all of these different elements in the school, and any little thing can really kind of harm them. So keep that in mind. Do you have any more in here? I want to talk a little bit about reducing unwanted behaviors. I have a list below that. So when we think about a child doing something that's inappropriate, there's really three ways kind of that we think about reducing an unwanted behavior. The first is punish it. Okay, you're doing something wrong, I'm going to punish you for it. Typically punishment has a few attributes to it. One is it's way reinforcing for the punisher. Okay, so if you know, kids acting out in your classroom and you say, go to the principal's office, you know, or, boy, it solved your problem real quick, didn't it? So a lot of times the punishment is really good for the punisher, but it doesn't really get the punishee what they need, which is to solve that aversive circumstance, and not in the best ways. And punishment has all kinds of side effects. Namely, you may punish the one behavior, but if you don't replace it with a new behavior, it doesn't do them any good. So we always got to be considering this idea of building up new behaviors. The other thing is extinction, which is ignore it long enough and it'll go away. And it will, but boy, that's hard to do, and especially when we're talking about sleeping in. I don't know how to make that thing go extinct because I can't figure out how to ignore that. So that doesn't work very well in terms of this attendance thing. But the last one is really, really important, and it's what I call appropriate incompatibles. And so that's that idea of building the wanted behaviors. And it's nice if you can build a wanted behavior that's incompatible with the unwanted behavior. Let me give you an example. This is another Rich West grandchild, because we get these stories at work all the time, so I will share them with you. He had a grandchild that was throwing tantrums, and the parents were like, he can never understand why being a behaviorist for as many years as he's been, he never figured out how to teach his kids how to teach their kids these things. But this child was throwing a tantrum, and finally the daughter said, oh, I need help. We got to figure out how to do this. He said, follow me. So they went into the kitchen, and he had a rug down there, and he broke up a little candy bar or treat or something into very, very small bits, because that's all you need. And he'd tell the child to sit on the rug, and then he would give him a treat, you know. So a little bit later, the kid's throwing a tantrum, and Grandpa goes, go sit on your rug. And the kid stops the tantrum, runs in the kitchen, sits on his rug, and is waiting for his treat. She goes, you've just trained my child like it's a dog. And he goes, yeah, pretty much. So what we had was a desirable behavior. Sitting on the rug didn't get us any problems. It was incompatible with throwing the tantrum in the living room. So everything was solved. We just created a desirable, incompatible behavior, and the bad behavior can easily be gotten rid of now. So let's think about this in terms of not attending, truancy. The incompatible behaviors, there's a few of them. In-school suspension, we use that one sometimes. We lock you in a room and now you can't be truant, you know. There's a few of these that we try, but the best incompatible behavior to not attending is attending. And so it kind of leads us full circle into what the solution is, which is to treat attendance and to build up all the elements around attending school. Instead of worrying about all the truant choices, just worry about the attendance choice.